Good evening. This is Shiver for the evening chat, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we have two very special guests. Our next guests are small business owners known throughout the Hampton Roads area. What's so unique about these business owners is that they are a Blackett owned and woman owned business. They may be new to the show, but are widely known in the local community for their excellence, service, and morals and values that they incorporate into their business and personal lives that make their company so magnetic. Please, viewers, help me welcome DD and D&D Property Maintenance. So, thank you for coming to the show today.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Let's see. So, tell us what your names are and where you're from.
My name is Jeffrey Dudley.
And my name is Sandra Dudley. I'm actually from Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm from the area.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm from New York City. At least four of the boroughs.
for the barrels?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, and I'm raised in Queens, so two of the boroughs, yeah.
Oh, cool. My mom's from Queens.
So, okay.
I don't know where from, but she's from Queens. That's cool. So tell us what the D&D stand for and what your company does.
Well, D&D represents Dudley and Dudley. That's our last name. And what was the other question?
That was it. Tell us what D&D stands for and what your company does.
Oh, we're a small home renovation company.
Nice. That's really cool. How did you two meet?
Um, We met at work. I had relocated to Virginia from New York, and I had a temp job. I was working at a finance company, and she worked in one section in the computer department, and I worked in the collections department, and we both were transitioning, and we started to date, and we got married 5 months later, and it was always, we used to have a date, and after the date we'd go to Walmart and look at tools together. So, that love for tools and carpentry and all that kind of stuff, and fixing stuff. She would fix cars when I met her. So that's how we got together, and we started, and she was instrumental in going to get the paperwork and getting the business started.
Nice, nice. And you came all the way from New York down south to Virginia.
Yeah.
Wow, you must love Virginia.
Well, I had family here, so it was a transition, to a family, and change was necessary. I think the spirit was moving me.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you two first met, did you think you would have a business together and thriving so well?
Oh, no. When we first met at the company, when I saw him walk through the door, the last thing I wanted him to do is to speak to me.
What?
And I was like, all the women in the office were actually looking at him and drooling, and I was like, only thing I was focused on is really working and trying to provide for my family. And it was funny because whenever I left my office area, because I worked in the back of the company, the name of the company was Easy Money, Mr. Dudley would always stare at me, and it was an uncomfortable feeling. I was always trying to sneak past his cubicle to make it to the bathroom. And I was praying, Lord, do not let him talk to me. Please don't let him talk to me. And then one day he got bold enough, and he was like, hey, I don't know the area. Can you show me around? The first thing I told him about was the church that I was going to. Yeah, I can show you around. I can show you the church.
Yeah. That's why he would stare, because he was new to the area and he needed help.
No, you won't. Yeah, okay.
But that's a really cool story. Thank you for sharing it. How long has the company been in business?
13 years. We got started in 2005, with different licensing. First a regular standard business license, then a Class C, and then we moved on. So it's been 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
13 years, and you guys would just go to Walmart and look at tools?
Yeah, when we would, at first, when we were at the office together, right? We will always sit down and talk to each other about what we wanted to do, what we didn't get an opportunity to do.
Hang on. How did you get past him just creeping? You said that he would stare at you and would creep you out.
Yeah.
So how did you get past that talking about tools?
Actually, when he started going to church with me. We started talking more, and we became real good friends. And one thing led to another. But in the process of becoming friends, you got to get to talk to each other. You got to get to know each other, and you got to know what each other likes.
Mm-hmm.
So he was sharing with me as far as he had went to college, and he wanted to be an electrical engineer, I think it was. And he came down here to apply for a job with Verizon. And he asked me what I like doing. I said, I like fixing cars. I like just fixing everything. You name it, I would do it because I didn't like asking anybody for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I will always fix things myself. And then we told each other about our backgrounds as far as school. And I started taking industrial arts, mechanical drawing, drafting, and everything when I was going through school because I wasn't that average girl. It's like being more tomboyish. I like all the things the guys like. So I stayed away from the girls, hung around the guys, and I became the guys' friends. So carpentry, making things, using a hammer, drill, anything with my hands, because I like art, I like making, I like building. So when we told each other about what we like, we tried to come up with a plan, a game plan, and how it was going to come together. And then he made a move on me. He made a move on me as my friend. And like I said, one thing led to another. And I figured since we had already mentally connected, physically connected, it was only one thing next for us to do. So we made a decision one day on our lunch break. We was going to get married. And we took and went and got married.
That's bold. That's like took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
Yeah. We have pictures. Our pictures, if you look at us down at City Hall, he was in a suit for work because we always had to dress professional and everything. And I was like standing up there. My eyes was cocked to the side like, what am I doing? And Jeffrey looking like, okay. And we were both a little hesitant and saying, I do. But we said, I do.
That is so impressive. What's impressive about it is that you talk about how you're not your average lady, your average female. You like tools, fixing things, cars. I would like it too if I could understand it, but it takes another mind. So you're brilliant. And so you understand numbers and mechanics. I remember before applying to the military, I took an ASVAB test. I did good on reading and the verbal skills, but my mechanics, I just didn't understand it. So, more power to you.
Well, thank you.
That's why I say that's very impressive. And then you really don't. You're like very independent. Like
yeah.
Sometimes that can be a good thing and a bad thing because sometimes I got to remember that I'm also a woman and I have a husband that I have to respect and I have to be a lady at the right time. Because sometimes in the construction field, you're always, on your grind. You're always working around men and everything. And with women, we're always trying to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
They sometimes men try to undermine you and everything, and they think just because you're a girl, you don't know anything. So that's even hard sometimes when you got to be very selective when you're choosing the right person to work with. It's good for my husband, when we hire people. I mean, he gets along with everybody very well. But when it comes down to men taking orders from a woman, when I'm the project manager too, that it's kind of hard. And they looking at me and they looking at my husband. And then I sometimes have to lean to him to make sure that he talks to them and let them know that this is who she is, this is her job. And that not only do they got to respect me as his wife, but they got to respect me as a businesswoman.
Don't believe that. Don't believe that.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, most guys say to me, you know what Sandra said do, right? You better do what she said. That's how most guys that, people we work with, that's how they come off. Oh, you know what Sandra said? You know what the boss lady said? So when she says that, I don't believe that. Most of the guys who work with her respect her, fear her, you know, you know. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about being empowered. How do you find that balance being feminine and then being a woman that men have to respect?
Um, how do I find that balance?
Yes. Yes,
That balance comes from my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ,
ma'am.
because I'm reminded, according to His Word, that that as a woman I have to respect my husband. You know, before I got married, it was no holds barred. I would say and do what I wanted to do, and just because of me being a disciple for Christ,
Mhm.
I have to remember that I have to respect my husband. And you got stories in the Bible about Aquila and Priscilla, which were tent makers in the Bible. That were a husband and wife, and they had to work together. So I have good examples in the Bible to follow by, but it's challenging sometimes because of my background and everything. But I'm constantly reminded by people around me that love me, support me, and I'm on a mission too. I'm trying to make it to heaven, so
Mhm.
I'm going to be obedient. And like I said, we all fall short sometimes. So
Mhm.
it's a struggle, but it's possible.
Wow. Very well explained. Because you already answered the next question I was going to ask. Excuse me. And now I see how you're an influence in the community. I think that from listening to you speak, you not only say what you think in a respectful manner, but I think you carry yourself well, and I think people see that. And so they're like, wow, that's a really powerful lady. Not like power as in you can dictate and do whatever you want, but when you speak, you're able to get things done, and people respect that. Going back to you, Miss Sandra, I want to ask you some personal questions. Is that okay?
That's fine.
In your bio, you mentioned you came from pretty much a nothing, and now you partly own a business, construction business. Could you share a bit of your success story and the path before arriving to the point of being a black woman owning a business?
Um, can you read that question again? Because I got some of it, but
Yes,
I
ma'am.
didn't get all. Got to remember, I'm a little bit older. Sometimes things I gotta hear it again.
That's all right.
Okay.
Um, in your bio, you mentioned you came from a, pretty much a nothing, and now you partly own a construction business. Could you share a bit of your success story and the path before arriving to the point of being a black owned business?
Wow. Um, that's a long story, but I try to break it down. I mean, like I said, I grew up in the projects. My mom was uneducated; she could neither read nor write. I have four other siblings, and growing up in the projects was hard, especially being a young girl. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't talk about it, but you go through incest, you go through rape, you go through molestation, you go through beatings, you go through some of everything. So when I was growing up, it was very discouraging. I thought I was nothing. I thought I was going to never be anything or anybody. And on that journey, um, I was not all the way in my walk with Christ, but at some point, I started going to a church when I was younger. And I had my encounter with the Bible. And the word changed the way I saw myself. I knew it wasn't going to be easy because I was young. I was about 16 years old. I had already tried to commit suicide twice. I was like, oh my God, life was not worth living. But when I read my Bible and I found out how much God loved me, and that the only thing I kept hearing is that He has a purpose and a plan for my life. And by me not being successful in taking my own life, that means that He had a plan for my life. It motivated me to finish school. By the time I was 18, I met a gentleman and I got pregnant. And what happened again is that um, I did not want anybody to take advantage of me. Okay? And when I met this gentleman in the military, he treated me really, really nice. It was the first time my parents allowed me to date. That was my son's, all my boys' fathers. I have 5 boys. And in the process of dating him, I got pregnant, and he wasn't going to leave me with a child going to overseas without my child having a name. That was important for me because I never had a name from my father. And it's a long story again. Me and my dad had the same last name, but we weren't related, and he was not married to my mom. Maybe that'll be another story to help some young lady. But the point is that we got married, and I had the 5 boys. And I got off track. What was...
I think it leads up to how
Yeah.
you came
Well,
to be.
yes. I went through a number of things, even being married, had 5 kids, but I never gave up hope. I never really gave up hope. And having my children, I didn't want my children to go through the same thing that I went through. The marriage ended, but I still stayed strong and committed to my children and always sought out avenues to provide and to take care of them. And I was in and out of relationships. They were not good, but the reason why I was in and out of relationships because really I did not know what a relationship was. I never saw a good example. Everything I saw was confusing. But later on in life, I met a gentleman, and I was overweight. I'm a black woman living in the ghetto with 5 kids. And this guy said that, you know what? You're a nice lady, but you know what? I never ever date you. Number 1, you're overweight. You need to get your life together. You got 5 kids. Who gonna take care of you? Who gonna take care of those kids? He gave me that drive. I respect him enough that he said those things to me, and it made me, number 1, get off my butt, and I had to lose weight. I had to say, how am I going to get an education? Because number 1, I was determined. I liked this guy, and I wanted a relationship with him. I went to college, and it just changed a lot of things in my life, but still, I'm in the Word. I'm not totally saved, but between God's Word and the encounter with a gentleman, it made me think about a lot of things. So I just kept pushing forward. It was not easy. I worked in law firms. I've always worked jobs. I've tried to work in law firms and was very successful, but because I had 5 kids, I could not hold on to a job. Who's going to watch 5 kids? I had times where I had to leave my kids home by themselves and let them raise themselves. I've worked in hospitals. I've had awesome jobs. When I went back to college, I actually majored in psychology, and I didn't know that that was going to even play a role in my life. Keep in mind, I love carpentry. I could build, I could do everything, but it was on the back burner. And so later on, working in mental health and getting jobs at different places, dealing with people who had issues, it prepared me really for what I deal with right now. It's not easy to go to a person and say, you know what, trust me that I can do this for you, me and my husband. We can make sure that what you want, we can do it at affordable cost. And what makes us different from other companies is that we end up becoming part of the families of the people that we work with. I can only be honest with a person. I can only show them who I am. That's what my husband does too. We're real people. We're not trying to take your money. We may never get rich off of what we do, but we have established a lot of awesome relationships with people. We have good friends. And when people got problems, they know that they can call on us. In the midnight hour, they'll call on my husband or I and say, can you help us? And that's what we want to do. We like giving back to our community. We like giving back.
That's good. Wow, that's an amazing story. So, your constructive business, I've seen your pictures and what you all have done. It sounds like it's I guess you could say a manifestation of who you are as a person, about how God fixed you up from the inside out.
Yes.
Kind of like a reconstruction.
I like the way you put that.
Okay. And so when you help people, it's kind of like what God has done for you. You're
Yes.
helping them from the inside out.
Yes.
So how do you do that? Like, do you just go to the homes with the sledgehammer and you just knock out all the rooms? And
You do what you have to do. If it requires to be demoed, it's going to get demoed. And then, like I said, I'll never, ever take any credit away from my husband because, we're one. And to me, he's like the perfect soulmate. We butt heads a lot, but it took him and I coming together in order to do what we do, So it's not just me. I don't think alone, yes, I would have continued to be who I was, a strong woman, but to my dream and construction and everything, I don't think it would have never ever fully come without him being there. So he plays a major part in my life in the business. It's like when you marry someone, they supposed to build you up and not tear you down. And in that area, my husband built me up to really do the things that I originally wanted to do all my life and could not do because there were always a lot of stumbling blocks. And by the time I met him, my children were grown and I was able to do that.
Mm-hmm. So why construction? Why are you so like motivated by building, carpentry? What influenced you to have a passion for that?
Like I said, it always goes back to the Bible. The first man I fell in love with was Jesus, and Jesus was a carpenter. Not only did he build, people don't look at that he was a carpenter. He built things with his hands, and yet he still built and transformed lives. So the thing is that he motivates me to be the person that I am, but yet I love being a carpenter. I love doing things with my hands. I paint, I sew, I fix cars, I draw, whatever it is. One of my girlfriends was just saying, because I don't see what I do in my own home, but when they walk in my home, they like, oh, wow. I like taking broken things, and I like putting it back together, and I'm like making it useful. And that's what God did with my life. And that's what we try to do in people's lives. That thing that you say you can't afford a kitchen, yes, you can. You know, because we can get in there, we can help you. Even if you got old cabinets and you can't afford new cabinets, we can get in there and we can renovate those cabinets. We can stain them, we can strip them, we can make them look like new. That's what my husband's doing right now in one of the houses that we're working in. I like giving people what they want, what they feel like they cannot have. Because when I was growing up, I thought I could not have a life.
Wow. This business is kind of like a representation of you and how you got transformed.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. And what about you, sir? What does this business mean for you?
You know what? Originally, my mom was always a decorator. She always kept a nice house. I always say I married my mom. She always constantly changed and decorated. So I always saw, no matter what kind of environment you in, when you come home to some place and it's beautiful inside, you know, and that's your refuge. So it's all construction. Every aspect of a house has always been fascinating to me because that's what people do well at, you know. So I've always had that love for making an environment beautiful, you know.
Even from your youth?
Yeah, even from my youth, you know, even from my youth, I always like that was something. My uncle was a super. He was a super in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and he would basically, you know, paint and rehab apartments when people moved out or do repairs, and I would always see him do that, and it would always like fascinate me that, oh wow, that he did that. Then later on, my father, I would see my stepfather, you know, fix lamps, and I got an interest in electrical, and you know that's what I went to college for. And so those two things kind of, you know, I always had a love for painting, and you know, which I like doing, not as much right now, but you know, when I was younger, that's what always fascinated me to build and to make a house beautiful, and to look at pictures of mansions, and you know, so and how they were constructed, and you know, I love that.
That's really good. How does making houses beautiful tie into your electrical engineering history?
Well, I actually didn't graduate. I actually finish in technology. I let engineering go because I think I got to statistics and calculus 3 and was like, oh my God, I can't take this no more. So, you know, But what I actually ended up doing with the college was I took it and I started work at the World Trade Center, and I work with contractors and vendors, and I would see how they did construction.
Hang on,
And
did you help with the World Trade Center?
yeah, I worked in operations.
The mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I worked in operations,
Okay.
and so you actually always see, you know, construction. The World Trade Center is like a big, it was at one time when God bless, it was always like a big shell, a big steel shell, like
Mhm.
big steel glass shell, and companies will move in, companies will move out. So you always constantly see them reconstructing an office. Like this, they take an office and they'll it'll be Kiowa Bank, or it'll be Bank of America, or it'll be, CB Wahlberg, some of the companies that came through the World Trade Center. And they would basically go in, when they moved out, and make it a whole new bank. I always say, why are they even doing it? Then they're going, they can make this thing. They'll take a luxurious space and turn it into another luxurious space. And that always fascinated me, because people always had a job. Because people are always going to want something new and redone. So I learned. I learned from electricians. I learned from the plumbers. I would learn from the painters. How to cut better, or how to wire this, or what gauge wire. So that, plus my technical education, plus my history, watching my uncle, who was a super, grow up, and my mom, it all culminated when I met my wife and we started talking, because there were things missing in me. I always had ideas, but couldn't make them come into full tuition, and she did that. She had that artistic side that I had a very technical side of me. Like I knew how to write a report and how to sketch stuff, but the art part of it, I didn't have that. So when I met her, she filled a part that I needed, and it made me want to go for it. Even now, we do projects, like she was saying earlier. There's a technical part of it that I have, and there's an artistic part of it that she has. That's how projects get beautiful, and well done. I don't
That's
think
nice.
we can do them without each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually say that I actually say we complete each other. We do.
It's like he was saying earlier that he likes to take and he likes to make things more beautiful. I think that's what he does with you. He takes something that's broken and he fixes it up like you like to do from the inside out, and he just makes it more beautiful.
Yeah.
So you're right, you two do complete each other. So, Jeff, or Mr. Jeff, my next question is for you. Could you explain your success story? And I know you've already explained it, but what gave you the courage to ask her for directions around the city? Were you just contemplating it, trying to think of what to ask her?
Well, I'm originally from New York. New Yorkers, unfortunately, are bold people.
But you just took and stared at her for a long time.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm from New York, and unfortunately, we are some bold folk, and I was just being bold. As you get older, you realize things will never happen if you don't take a step. So that's what I did. I took a step, and it was a great step, because until I met her, I saw Virginia, the Tide. I was ready to leave the Tidewater every time I met her, because I was like, well, I came down here to get a job as a splicer or engineering type job with Verizon. They had opened up, but when I got here, they were closing down. They had actually fulfilled like 80% of the jobs. So I got here late, and by the time I got here, they were closing things down. And although I had like a deep math background, unless you do it all the time, you lose calculus 1, you lose statistics. So I did okay. I didn't do well. I probably needed like another month to study. So I was working with her, but even in that, even if I would have got the job, I would not have been fulfilled, because it was always something inside of me that wanted to do construction, design, remodeling, stuff like that. It was always something in me that wanted to do that. So yeah.
So, for the both of you, I'd like to hear your individual answers. Um, what do you value, and what do you feel is the most important to you?
Wow, that's a deep one. What do I value? Well, first of all, I value family. The older I get, when I was younger, I was ambitious and, you know, did not understand how important family was, community is. You know, when I was, in college, all I wanted was a paycheck and chase a check, and somehow that would get me fame or recognition. But and love. I mean, ultimately, that's what everybody's doing it for, to get love, I hope. But I think family is very, very important. I think community is very, very important. I think to live someplace and never ever contribute to it is a sad thing. Um, so I think that's important, that family's important and community is important, and you contribute to it in some kind of positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. What I do value is family, and I value people. You know, so often in life, I mean, this world can be so cruel, and people take advantage of one another. And the last thing I want to do, because of the way I grew up, is take advantage of anybody. And because of the way I grew up, you're always told you can't have, you can't do, you're not going to be and everything. And I'm that person always telling people, yes, you can have it. You just can. You can do it. Nobody can tell you unless God speaks from above and say, no. I always believe that it's important to try to be there for friends and families. I've got hurt numerous times in life and by people, but at the same time, I never give up on anyone. I'm always that person that you can say, Sandra, you can probably slap me in my face and the next day call me up and say, you know what, I need help. I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to give you all of me, not some of me, all of me. And I'll probably be that way until the day that I die. It probably caused me to die. But I believe in helping people. I like seeing people smile, because if anybody knows in the camera, I don't even have a tooth in the front. So as I grew up, I would never ever smile, because people pick with you and talk about you and everything. But my thing is, don't care about having teeth, no teeth, scars, whatever. I just want to see people happy. I want to see people smile. I want to give them what they want, because that's just who I am.
Wow, that's good. Do you all do everything together, or are the operations of business delegated to specific tasks for both of you?
Yeah, I think we have job. We've come to understand that each of us have our greater talents. Like I said before, when it comes to the person who has to meet the codes, that's me. But when it comes to the person that has a creative idea, that has the ability to work with customers, to basically, get them in the door, polish them up, keep them happy through a long project, that's her. So I do think that we both have different skill sets, and it meshes together. We do work a lot together, but at the same time we work apart. I think sometimes what's best is when we help each other fulfill a goal. That's when it's best. When I assist her, or when she assists me, I'm like, Sandra, hey, I got this problem with a customer. Could you talk to him? Could you do this? Could you get more money? Because that's something that she's highly skilled for. When I have a situation where it's not in the book necessarily, it takes maybe something technical. She has a MacGyver thing about her that she can rig things up to code that's really, really good. So I like that So I think, yeah, we complement each other. We don't have the same skill set. We have different jobs, and yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah. And back to like you're saying, asking the question, do we spend a lot of time together? Yes, we do. But we're learning in order to, at least I'm learning, in order to expand the business, right? That there has to be a point of separation. So like at this time, we're working two different jobs. You know, we're still one, and he's still calling me, and I'm still calling him. But in order to generate more revenue and to expand the business, that it requires that, you know what, I had to tell myself, I can't always be there with him. I got to go somewhere else, and I got to do this myself. And, you know, of course, with the help of another worker or whatever, because, you know, I'm kind of short. I am strong, but I will never have the strength of most men. So I do need, when I'm going out to do another job, I do need help, you know. So we're around each other a lot. We're on the phone with each other a lot when we are apart. But the ultimate thing is that we are one, and we're always together when it comes down to the jobs. So even if I'm somewhere else, Jeffrey's there with me. If he's somewhere else, I'm still there with him. But we may not be there in body. But I'm hoping everybody can understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's kind of like when people say, "I'll be with you in spirit."
Yeah.
So we with each other in AT&T. AT&T.
Yeah, we're gonna give you business, AT&T.
So I kind of like want to understand of what you all mean by love and happiness. Is happiness something that makes you feel good for the moment, or what does that mean for you all and for your customers?
Wow. I think to be happy, I say more fulfilled, you got to take a long-term look at it. You just can't, if you go short-term, you know, this morning I woke up tired because, you know, we were talking with our son and our daughter-in-law last night, you know, for a long time. And so I woke up not fresh. 50 years old, I need a little bit of rest, you know. So I wasn't as fresh, but you learn, if you take life long term, not short term, which means how I'm feeling right now is not where I want to be at. Where I want to be at is where I want to be at. So whatever I have to do right now, I'm going to do in order to get to the fulfillment that I want. So I think that's the most important thing when you start to mature as human beings. You'll see, wow, you know, yeah, I got to take the long term, especially with a business. With a business, the business got to come first before you a lot if you want to be successful. You know what I'm saying? You may not want to go to work. You may not want to go and sit around guys and tell them what to do or to breathe in dust today. But that's the reality. You know, that's our reality. So that's what you got to do because that's what's necessary. So I think that's long term is really setting a goal. No matter what happens, fulfill the goal.
Yeah. And for me, it's about a choice. Happiness is a choice. I mean, every day in a relationship, when you wake up, you don't say, "Oh, I love that person." When I wake up in the morning, you don't say it. And if somebody tell you that, they lying. You know, because you know you got problems. But life is about choices. When I wake up in the morning, I choose to love my husband. I choose to go to work. What if I choose not to love him? What am I going? Do I want to really afford to go get a divorce? No, I don't want a divorce. I choose to love my husband. With the business, do I want to choose not to go to work? No, my bills got to be paid. And the thing is, a lot of people, they rely upon that. So to me, life is about choices. I choose to be happy. I choose to work. And I'm going to choose what's right for me. What's right for me is making the right decisions, right choices. That's what makes me happy. And if I choose the wrong thing, then that makes me sad. Because I got to sit around, I got to think about it. So I always try to think about it and make the right decisions. And that's what makes me happy.
do you guys have any fear of making the wrong decisions or making any mistakes?
Oh yeah,
Mm.
that, like I said, but we try very hard to choose what is right. It may not be right, but then when you find out it's wrong, then what you got to do? You got to go back and make the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about choices.
Yeah, and you gotta have.
Can you come closer, please?
Oh, and you gotta have enough courage,
Yeah.
enough stamina, enough desire, to really, really just go after something. So no matter what, you have to go after it. And I know this is a college radio station, so get as much training as you possibly can. There are things now that I thought I would not use in college that I took from college that, okay, that allows my mind, she'd go, oh, math or this or technical drawing or just, just even being able to have a conversation with a customer about more than his kitchen or his bathroom or his foundation. All the things that there's nothing that goes to waste in life. I was a psychology major, but I became a lawyer. No, you're gonna use that psychology knowledge in your law life. You're gonna use your psychology in your selling life. So or your customer just had a nervous breakdown because they've, all these things work towards the benefit of the of your life. So yeah.
You know what it sounds like? Have you guys ever watched Slumdog Millionaire?
She has.
What is it?
Slumdog Millionaire.
What's that?
Yeah, she has 1,000 movies. The one with a guy in India, somewhere, and he's poor, and you told me about the movie.
I heard of the movie.
Yeah, you saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he said I saw it, then I saw it.
Yeah.
Like I said, guys,
Yeah.
sometimes
Her
forget.
media
I have
space,
so
she has like,
I have so much going on. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll be having to dig back in my archives.
She got like 2,000 DVDs.
Yeah.
No exaggeration, and so she has the movie somewhere.
So the reason why I say that is because from what you were saying, Sarah, about no matter what you study, you're going to use it later on in your life.
Yeah.
With Slumdog Millionaire, the main character, he goes on a show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Indian version. And so at the end, he wins $1 million. But what helped him to answer the questions was what he experienced in his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it sounds like what you guys consider successful is being able to go back and take the experience you learned from to help you to be more successful in the future as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've seen the movie, right?
Like I said, I done watched so many movies. At this time, I cannot remember that movie. I can't remember it. I can only be honest. Because
Yes,
at
ma'am.
this moment, I can't.
So being builders, what foundation do you think is the most important for your business and family, or do you separate the two?
You wanna
We are that right there. We're really. She takes on a female role, and I take on a male role in that. That's to me in that regard. In that, I always want to separate family from business. She doesn't, and I think we both benefit from that. I benefit in that, my heart, a lot of times I'll be like, oh, a project deadline. I know someone called about this, but she'll pull me to doing the right thing far as, let's see what our son wants or the neighbor wants or a church member wants. And then on the other side of that is that she is the one that always want to run and help somebody. But you know what? Somebody just gave us a whole bucket of money to put this back together, so we got to take care of that. So I think we balance each other out with that, and as far as putting business and personal, it's a balance because the biggest balance we have with that is when you go home at the end of the day, let work be work, and when you come to work, let work not be home. So those are the two different things that that's a balance. Sometimes we're good at it, sometimes we're not.
Right.
It sounds like from what you all are saying, you're more technical, sir, and you're more, I would say, I wouldn't say emotional, but you know how to relate to people more
Yes.
with giving examples with building. And I hope, hopefully I'm not going too forward with assuming, but you probably use like examples about building to help minister to people that you
Yes.
talk to, and that.
Yes. It actually, in the line of work that I do, it opened up a lot of doors to be able to share the gospel, not just pounce on anybody about Jesus, but you know, you do get to share about how, you know, he's working in your life, and you know how you can get things done. It always comes together. That's all I can tell you. It all works together.
What's so important about God, or do you find him a different being, different stages in your
He,
life?
what's important? He's my very foundation. If it was not for him, I would not be here.
Mm-hmm.
I could not do any of the things that I do if it was not for God. And I wasn't just born with a hammer in my hand. I had to learn about the
Come closer.
hammer. I'm sorry, I was saying I wasn't born with a hammer in my hand. I had to learn about that hammer. And I had to learn that, you know, that the word tells me that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And just holding on to that, I really believe that I can do all things. I'm amazed at some of the things I can do that I have not got the college education or the experience in. And the way he works through me is that I try to see things through his eyes, and when I look at certain things, I already know what to do and how it's going to turn out and what you can do. But like I said, I don't believe that I can do anything without him. Like I said, I know what it's like wanting to give up on this world.
Mm-hmm.
But when I found out about him, it gave me hope for this world because he has hope for us.
Mm-hmm. So, like a human, or when you were younger, I'm pretty sure that you probably don't think the same way as you did when you were younger. Do you think your perspective of God has changed as you aged?
It's grown even more. When I was little, I looked at him as, I mean, if you know what a pyramid is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got two ends of a pyramid. Okay, when I was little, I looked through the big side and say, okay, I'm looking at God. And when I look at through the big side of the pyramid, I'm looking through the other end that's very small.
Mm-hmm.
But now the flip side of it is that I look at the small side and I see how big God is. I'm sorry, this mic is moving, but he's awesome. He's amazing. That's all I can tell you. That if you don't know him, try to get to know him. You know, I challenge anybody. If you say he doesn't exist, go after him. Go after him, and he'll show you that he does exist. Okay.
Oh, cool. That's an amazing story. I really appreciate you sharing it, your story with me. And one final question before we go. Where do you see the company in the next 5 years?
Wow. You know what? We've managed properties for like the last several years. And we've managed properties for the last several years, and I think our future is in real estate. That's as we get older. That's what we, construction is actually a young man's game, a young woman's game. It's actually a young person's game because you need physical strength, dexterity, endurance to get things done. So knowing that we had to have an out, and because we've been in construction for so long, and the other things we've done, mortgage brokering and stuff like that, we see that real estate is the next place we're going. You know what I'm saying? We're working on that right now to build up a portfolio of properties, and whether it's flipping them or renting them. So that's where we see us. I mean, that's where I see us the other things that Sandra also is interested in, but you know, as far as the overall D&D property maintenance, I see D&D properties. That's that I see that as our future.
And and I know 5 years from there, instead of like Jeffrey was saying, instead of us being out there doing this for others, and like investors, developers, I want us to be able to do it for ourselves. I want us to be the owners of the property this time, and I want us to put all of ourselves in that, and actually be able to sell. You know, you may say that it's not about money, but it is about money, because as you get older, like you said, we're not going to be able to do the things that we do now. So we got to change how we make money. And as we're older, take all the knowledge that we have and pour it still into someone else. We have grandchildren that I pray that they may take on the business, and even if they don't, give it to someone else if we can't do it. So I just know that real estate will be the next thing that we want to do.
And the Hampton Roads area is a booming area, especially Virginia Beach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we just talking about properties in Norfolk as we're coming up, because she said they all sold.
Well, and that's our time, and I would like to thank you all for coming on the show. And you guys do a lot for the community. Although I didn't ask what you do for community, I think it was very evident in the answers that you provided about how you provide support to people that you serve with your projects and your construction work. And I think that's very important for the show to see how people can take their talents and use it for the benefit of others. Because I think you said it, sir, that it's important for people to give back to their communities.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing you all's experience. And that's the end of the show. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
That was fun.
How do I stop?